So in this video we'll look at the basics of geopolitical wars, and in specific the tariff war that is currently ongoing between America and China. The basics are as follows, and it seems almost simplistic, but you forgive me. In every war there will never be a winner, but one must lose for it to stop. And all wars, tariff wars or wars involving foot soldiers, are about real power and not perception of power. But we will never know who had real power, because the person who holds a perception of being powerful can hoodwink the other person into making a wrong move. But sometimes a person looks at the dynamics between two parties, party A and party B, and they realize in real sense the person with the real power is party A and not party B. But we will never know that before the war. We will always know that after the war. And imagine this when we're talking about the American war, where Japan decided to fight. It seemed like a losing war for Japan, but they seemed to be dominant until the perception that they were powerful was dispelled very, very fast during the nuclear war. And in this, I shall introduce a very simple concept, and this concept we call escalation dominance. And this is a gaming theory concept. And what we are trying to say here is that if there is a war or disagreement between two people, person 1 and person 2, escalation is a tool of dominance. Remember, we look at it from a hierarchical point of view, where a good number of people would be what I call Robert Greene theorists, and this we're talking about laws of power. We have others here who I shall call Machiavellian, because they refer a lot to Niccolo Machiavelli's work. We have another one here which is Nietzsche, and among others. But at the top of the whole pinnacle of the game of power is escalation dominance, and it is the best method but also the riskiest, because it gets you the results of power and dominance very, very fast. And simply what you are doing is escalating because you are convinced the other person cannot afford to lose. And this means the person who has the ability to walk away from any social interaction is the one who holds the power. So there is a husband and there is a wife. If the husband is the one who can walk away easily without being scathed or hurt, that is the person who has the dominance within the relationship, and vice versa. Therefore, when we are looking at the escalation dominance theory, Donald Trump was heavily reliant on the idea that America as a country is dominant. But there is a very big difference between military dominance, that's one, and what you call financial or industrial dominance. But Trump used the idea that if we are buying $437 billion worth of goods from China, we hold the bargaining power. Remember this term. We hold the bargaining power. Therefore, if we say we will no longer buy from you, China will consider it a loss, and they will negotiate for better terms, better production prices, and so forth and so forth. That is the thinking that he had. Number one, we are USA, a dominant country. Number two, we have the largest bargaining purchasing power here, and therefore we can force China into a bargaining table. But remember, in any interaction, especially when speaking about exports and imports and countries, we say that any country that imports, this is a negative on their account, and that means they do not have money to save because they spend more than they save. And that is what we call a basic economic deficit. Any country that exports more than it imports has what you call a surplus, and this one allows them to save more than they spend, and this is in the form of investments. Therefore, when Donald Trump was introducing a trade war, he ignored this and used a subjective perception of America and a subjective perception of their buying power. It was basically looking at how he runs his business, nonetheless. But if we look at it a step further, we see where the biggest problem is. For China, as much as they are selling more than they are buying, they do not bring these US dollars back into the economy, but they buy what you call US debt. And this is in the form of T-bills, municipal bonds, and treasuries. And this totaled to over 700 billion as of this video. That means that the person has a surplus. They are not taking these dollars back to their country. Instead, they are holding you hostage by the debts which they hold. And this means they can collapse your economy at will. What do I mean by this? The principles of supply and demand apply. If I want to offload all these 700 billion plus worth of debt, I will oversupply the market. If I oversupply the market, the interest rates will go down. Interest rates will go down, and this will create a ripple effect after another. And the Federal Reserve will need then to raise the interest rates to boost the confidence in the US economy. And that is why, again, Donald Trump was insisting on removing the Federal Reserve chairman. So in summary from this whole video, we have a country that was bullied into a corner, but in reality they discovered they are the ones that hold the cards and not the aggressor. And this right here is what we call the illusion of power, and a simple discussion of what we call flawed escalation dominance strategy. You be the judge. Am I wrong?